I speak of Stephen Kinnock, who's, of course, Labour MP and sits on the Brexit Select Committee. What do you take from these headlines, Mr Kinnock? Good morning to you.
Hello, good morning, Nick. Look, in fact, the instruction to not go and meet with government ministers came very late in the afternoon yesterday when I was already in the Cabinet office waiting to meet with David Lidington. But I would have done it anyway because I think it's really important to convey the message face to face that they should take no deal off the table and hear what they've got to say about it before deciding where to go with that. It was also because I, for 2 years now, have been campaigning for a Norway-style Brexit, and Mr. Lidington and Mr. Gove and Mr. Barwell had particular questions about the Norway option that they wanted to ask, and I thought it was very important to give them those clarifications.
As a result of events this week, Mr. Kinnock, do you think you're getting closer to a Norway-style deal?
I think that we're getting serious traction. People are realising that there are tremendous difficulties and reservations around having a second referendum. Nobody that I've spoken to wants to leave the EU with no deal at all, and so we're finding that that our Norway option is a compromise. It brings mainstream, sensible, pragmatic people from all sides of the House together in a way that says, right, we're going to leave the European Union, we're leaving the political institutions, leaving the ever closer union, but keeping a really close, frictionless trading relationship. And I think that's a compromise that a lot of people are going for.
A sizable number of your Labour colleagues, Mr Kinnock, are pushing, of course, to do it again, a people's referendum, a final say. Do you support them? Your view on that?
I've got deep reservations about the idea of another referendum, not least because I still don't know what they want the question on the ballot paper to be. I don't think it's right to have the option of leaving with no deal. I've seen and heard so much on the Brexit Select Committee about what a disaster that would be for the economy and for the steelworks in my constituency. So there's that issue of what's on the ballot paper. We can't possibly have Theresa May's deal on the ballot paper because that's as dead as a dodo. So where does that leave us with the question on the ballot paper? I also think it would be deeply, deeply divisive, and it's time now for Parliament to step up. I believe passionately in parliamentary democracy. I think MPs are there to sort these problems out, so we need to step up to the plate and make that happen and reassert people's faith in our parliamentary democracy.
I'm about to ask my listeners whether they think Mr Corbyn is perhaps being a little intransigent and should some way seek, and we hear what he says about no deal, and he's of course entitled to that opinion, but somehow seek to start some form of dialogue. Do you think he should?
I think that at least one meeting would be a good thing because I found it very useful to look those gentlemen in the eye yesterday and tell them they need to take no deal off the table. And then I have what I felt was a useful exchange about this sensible bridge building option that we're proposing. And, you see what the response is and you take it from there rather than not at least have that one opportunity to put your view across. And I know you can do it in an exchange of letters, and I know Jeremy and Theresa May have had an exchange of letters yesterday, but there's nothing beats actually the cold hard reality of sitting down across the table and making your point.
And they are in listening mode, Mr Kinnock?
Yes, I mean, they invited me in, and it was a very useful conversation.
But they're not just playing you along, It's one thing to invite you in, it's another to actually listen to you, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're right, Nick, and I really hope that this isn't just a stunt. The British people have had enough of stunts. They've had enough of the narrow party political tribalism that we've seen. This conversation I had yesterday was good. It should have happened 2 years ago. The Prime Minister and the government should have been reaching out and having these conversations. Because, yes, 52% won the referendum, but there's 48% out there as well, and it's the government's responsibility to think of the British people and not to divide and polarise people. This conversation should have happened 2 years ago.
Last couple of questions. My listeners make the point, and all the newspapers make the point, so not just the Mail or Telegraph, that Mr Corbyn has in the past met with, and there are reasons that he makes for this, met with representatives of the IRA, with representatives of Palestinian Solidarity, Hamas. You know where I'm going. Is it not a strange look that he won't meet with the British government?
I think that it's much better to sit down and at least have one conversation before you decide. And you may well decide after that conversation, if the follow-up action isn't real, if it's all just smoke and mirrors and rhetoric, not reality, then it's right not to re-engage. We've got to give the government, I think, this one last chance. I think it's always right to talk, always right to engage. The question is, what will they do if she comes back on Monday with, in essence, the same deal that's just been rejected by 230 votes? This is unprecedented,
Yes.
and she's got to change her behaviour.
Lastly, Stephen, you and I have been talking for a few years. What's going to happen come March 29?
I mean, the Norway plan that we have is, in fact, the only one, I think, that gives a chance of still being able to leave on the 29th of March, because it only requires a change to the political declaration. It doesn't require reopening the withdrawal agreement, which the EU has made clear is now locked down. So I genuinely hope I can tell you, Nick, what I think should happen, which is that both party leaders, I hope, will pivot to this option. We've been working, the Norway Plus group, it's co-chaired by myself and Nick Bowles. We've got a really good, I would say it's a team of Conservative MPs and Labour MPs and colleagues working together to put this proposal forward. We launched a pamphlet at the beginning of January, which set out in detail, a 20-page document, precisely how this would work. If we can pivot to that, if both leaders could, we've got a parliamentary majority, because both could be whipped, both sides of the House would be whipped, and then you've easily got over the 320 votes that you need. That is what should happen. What will happen, I'm afraid, politics, making forecasts in politics is a mug's game, as we've seen.
Well, Michael Portillo told me earlier in this week, anyone who knows what's going to happen is either deluded, drunk, or perhaps a bit of both. So we'll probably leave it there. Stephen Kinnock, thank you for your time, Labour MP, and you sit on the Brexit Select Committee.